On the evening of May 24, 1888, a neighbor investigating a series of gunshots entered a farmhouse between Viroqua and Richland Center and discovered a scene of absolute horror. Reuben Drake and his wife had been shot to death. Their 2 grandchildren were found with them. Their throats had been slashed. This happened in the heart of the Kickapoo Valley, a region defined by rugged terrain and isolated farmsteads. That isolation became a liability as news of the murder spread. Families spent the following week barricading their homes, convinced a killer was roaming the valley. A week later, authorities arrested 24-year-old Andrew Grandstaff. He was taken into custody, but he would never have the chance to defend himself in front of a jury. Grandstaff was the man the town chose to blame, but by killing him before he reached a courtroom, the community silenced the only person who could have definitively explained what happened that night. To the residents of Viroqua, the case seemed open and shut. Witnesses claimed they saw Grandstaff washing blood off his clothes near the scene of the crime shortly after the murders. On May 31st, a tip from a local resident led the sheriff directly to Grandstaff, ending the week-long manhunt. The following morning, while sitting in his cell, Grandstaff dictated a full confession, admitting to the slaughter of the Drake family. In a town paralyzed by fear, this confession was the only evidence anyone needed to believe the terror was finally over. But the legal process was moving too slowly for the community. On the night of June 1st, a mob of 300 residents surrounded the jail at the Vernon County Courthouse. Sensing the situation was spiraling out of control, the local sheriff telegraphed the governor in Madison, pleading for military intervention to protect the prisoner. Governor Jeremiah Rusk refused to send aid. He wired back a short response, stating he had faith in the citizens of Vernon County. With the state's blessing of silence, the mob smashed through the courthouse doors, overpowered the guards, and dragged Grandstaff from his cell. A legal system only functions as long as the state is willing to defend it. Without that protection, the mob instantly became the law. Modern analysis of the case suggests a much more complicated story. Historical records indicate the mob severely beat Grandstaff before he dictated that crucial confession. The brutality continued during the lynching itself. The mob hanged Grandstaff multiple times, repeatedly letting him down to demand that he confess again while he fought for his life. If the town truly believed his morning confession was voluntary and complete, there was no reason to pull him back down from the rope to demand a second one. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse have noted that Grandstaff likely suffered from a mental disability. His cognitive vulnerabilities would have made him an easy target, a compliant scapegoat for a town that needed someone to blame immediately. The mob's repetitive violence during the execution suggests they weren't seeking the truth. They were trying to physically beat down their own lingering doubts. By the time the mob finished, Grandstaff was dead. They left his body hanging from a tree on the courthouse lawn as a public warning. This wasn't an isolated event. Wisconsin's history includes at least 6 recorded lynchings since 1882, each one a total failure of the courts. This diagram shows the demographic divide in American vigilantism. While Southern lynchings were weapons of racial terror, Wisconsin's victims in this era were exclusively white. These mobs were fueled by crime panic rather than racial hierarchy. Regardless of whether the spark was racial terrorism or a local crime panic, dismantling the right to a trial yields the same result: tyranny. Today, Viroqua's Courthouse Park contains a small concrete slab inscribed with a single date, June 1, 1888. It is a strange irony that a modern town maintains a physical memorial to the exact day its ancestors abandoned the rule of law. By killing Grandstaff, the mob destroyed the only chance for a definitive answer. They traded a legal verdict for a permanent question mark over who actually killed the Drakes. The mob sought a final resolution. Instead, they left Viroqua with a historical stain that no monument could ever truly erase.